The International Chamber of Commerce Sri Lanka is the national office of the Paris-based business organization. The ICC comprises of membership of 45 million members in 130 countries. Trade facilitation, export and import and cross-border trade and issues relating to freight forwarding and many other matters of importance are addressed by the ICC. ICC Sri Lanka works through several committees to debate, discuss and suggest solutions on subjects related to the mandate of the Chamber. Each of these is led by professionals in the committee, with many committees functioning. ICC includes a membership committee, International Relations Committee, Policy and Advocacy Committee, Training and Development Committee, Banking Committee. ICC is the sole authorized guaranteeing agency for Acca. It's an internationally accepted customs document which enables duty-free and tax-free temporary importation of items as commercial samples. The Acca reduces costs and red tape. The ICC is also known for its popular publications invaluable for bankers, lawyers, arbitrators and anyone involved in cross-border trade. Its members are provided with a member's privilege card which includes discounts with multiple retailers. ICC Sri Lanka's vision is to be the organization of choice to advance international trade and investment for businesses in Sri Lanka. ICC Sri Lanka's mission is to be the change agent in national policy formulation and implementation and facilitator of global businesses with Sri Lanka and disseminator of information on the development of business utilizing the services of ICC Paris while continuing to be a facilitator of dispute resolution. In addition, the ICC Sri Lanka organizes seminars, lectures, meetings with business leaders, and gives recognition to Sri Lankan businesses for outstanding achievements. ICC can play a special role in connecting business to the world and be a driving force for all Sri Lankan businesses.
If you seek for business, look for insightful. If you seek for politics, look for anticipation. If you value lifestyle, look for the extraordinary. If you love sports, look for the passion. Daily FT. Be empowered.
ACCA has its approved employer program and there are benefits associated with that. We'd like to invite Ratnakala Kumara Gurunathan now to speak about that. Over to you.
Thank you, Arun. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Radhi. I am an ACCA member and I head the training and knowledge management function at Acuity Knowledge Partners, which is an ACCA approved employer. Before I start, I'd like to thank ICC with whom we have partnered today. So just taking a very few minutes of your time to tell you the benefits of the ACCA approved employer program. It is basically an accreditation of the employer's learning and development policies and systems. One of the most significant benefits of being a part of this program is that you're able to attract some of the finest talent and retain that talent. So some of the benefits that I'd like to touch on are working for an ACCA approved employer who holds the trainee development approval at gold or platinum level means that ACCA students and affiliates are able to claim a performance objective exemption. Having the approved employer status will make them exempt from the continuous professional development, making your organization one of the top picks amongst the members and future members. So as part of an approved employer, organizations will also be able to take part actively in contributing to the future of the industry through inclusion in ACCA surveys and questionnaires, which are the basis on which the professional insights are basically developed on. So it also opens up avenues to be a part of listening and contributing to industry trends in webinars, which provides a meaningful platform for you as an organization to voice an opinion and gain positive visibility for the same. One of the other benefits I want to touch on is the dedicated assistance from the staff at the local office that you will receive as an ACC approved employer. Students and members of your organization are also able to gain access to a range of additional qualifications and programs offered by the body at discounted prices. This can also be used for your quality assurance and promotion of your business. And it certainly acts as a competitive incentive when you hire top talent, especially in the form of posting your job opportunities on ACCA's career portal. So these are some of the many benefits of being an approved employer. It is basically a recruitment dream, centralized heavily on talent management. And ease, I believe, is a critical factor, especially at this juncture today in the current business context, to be able to attract the right talent and retain them. So the process is very straightforward and absolutely free of charge, and it's open to all organizations. All you have to do is to initiate the application available on the website. The application itself should not take you more than 20 minutes, and there are comprehensive handbooks that outline the data that you need to know prior to applying. In addition to that, the local office is extremely supportive, so you can reach out to the local office, have a dialogue as to what documents you need, and get started with that. So you can reach out to Ruchira Jayawardhan if you're interested. Good luck with your journey as becoming an ACC approved employer. Thank you. That's it from me, Arun.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ratnakala. We appreciate that. Now, greetings and welcome to all to this webinar. Now, I'm aware that we have participants from different places who are joining us from the United Kingdom, from the United States of America, from Singapore, from India, from the Philippines, and also Australia. So it's pretty much spread across the globe, or should we say the map. Now, in as much as this is a Zoom meeting, we also have a cross-posting that is taking place simultaneously, I think, on Facebook, also via Daily FT, the ACCA, AIA, Great Place to Work, as well as ICC Sri Lanka. So all of those are platforms across which you would be able to join in, and we are deeply appreciative that we have an audience now, and there are more who will likely join us in the fullness of time. Now, back in the year 1970, that's going back a while, there was this bestseller under the title Future Shock. And in that rather interesting tome, its author, Alvin Toffler, posited the idea that there is really quite an issue that people, organizations, even nations need to deal with, will have to contend with, and that is change. Not just change, but rapid change, to the degree that it almost becomes rather unendurable to many communities and can even affect the mental health of people. That's the idea that he posited. And it is interesting that while he deals with so many changes that have come and the speed of change over many centuries, there is the fact that IT has impacted heavily, but there is also technology, and more recently, there are people who have moved from one place to another. Now, migration has always been there, it's taken place, but the intensity with which it has come perhaps is something very unusual. Now, having looked at the book, and I have chosen to revisit it in these days, I understand that Alvin Toffler never for a moment factored in a pandemic that affects all of the different areas of human endeavor. For that matter, even religious violence has not been touched on, but pandemic, definitely not. So now, today, companies, without exception, and in all parts of the globe, have to grapple with what we refer to as shock, future shock, meaning one hardly ever knows what tomorrow brings and what next year brings. So for planners, this can be a bit of a nightmare. So human resources management, or HR, has to navigate this very complex situation. In fact, we are very much in a VUCA state of being, volatile, unexpected, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not computers, is it? Not computers or just machines that can be tinkered with, but we're dealing with humans, with employees. Their safety and well-being have to be factored in. And also, HR then has to perform a balancing act. And in this irksome scenario, ICC, this International Chamber of Commerce, Sri Lanka, with the Association of HR Professionals, the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, or ACCA, and the Daily FT have arranged for eminent industry leaders with hands-on experience in tackling the workplace reality to share thoughts and ideas with regard to dealing with this present shock, or shall we say even the future shock. But before we go any further, let's view this clip and see what the perspective is. So pay attention, please.
Across the country, empty streets and empty office towers don't just mean a change in how we work. Entire communities have relocated to new places. A corporate headquarters can put tens of billions into local economies. In Charlotte, Bank of America has 180,000 employees working from home during the pandemic. Austin-based Dell expects more than half of their 160,000 staffers to never go back to their desks.
Here in the San Francisco Bay Area, Google and Facebook have announced that most of their workers will be at home for the rest of the year. But Twitter has announced that its workers will be at home from now on. And that's going to have an enormous impact, far beyond just empty desks in a building like this.
Nail salons, barbers, shoe repair, dog groomers, optometrists, bars. The list is long of those who depend on a workaday crowd. And they all stand to suffer if their customers don't commute in. Dan Miller's chain of dry cleaners has stores in walking distance of many tech companies.
We've seen declines nationwide of between 70 and 75% in the dry cleaning and laundry business. It's, I would say, one of the hardest hit industries other than probably airlines and hotels. But it's going to be a new world, right?
And for the folks who made a living selling to the lunch crowd, Twitter's announcement means the pain of the pandemic could be permanent.
Our sales are about 40% lower. Being able to service more of our community is going to be more of our focal point instead of just looking towards upstairs within our building.
Are there any upsides? Well, a post-pandemic office might give each person a lot more room. Matt Mullenweg's 1,200-person company has worked from home for years, and he says it's pretty great.
We don't realize how much time and agency we trade off an office environment. At home, everyone has a corner office. You're like the CEO of your own home.
So when this is all over, will we ever come back to an office again?
My prediction from having done a lot of research on this is, for those of us that can work from home, which is roughly 40% of people, I don't think many people are going to do that full time. I think the much more standard thing would be something like 2 or 3 days a week at home.
And that might change the places we wind up living.
And because you can come in and work in the office only 2 days a week, it's much easier for people to live, say, 2 hours out of the city because they're only commuting twice a week.
Mullenweg says he's already seen that happen.
Do they disperse when you give them the freedom to work from home? Have people scattered?
Typically within that first year, people will, look for a little more bang for their buck. If you're not having to commute every day, moving 20 or 30 minutes out, you can get some incredible space, more land, more air, better schools, like any number of things that might be a priority for you at the same or less cost.
Working from home now is a chance to stay safe while we wait for a vaccine. But city life may never be the same again.
Well, that clip certainly had some upbeat messages included therein. But also there are some other sides. It's not only about a life balance supposedly being created now, but working from home, how is it that the time spent can be measured? How do you place a value on that kind of situation? And management, how is it possible for them to stay connected with employees? How to monitor and measure and reward. How is that possible when there is distance? Then how to measure delivery objectives, communications, how is it that possible on a regular basis? How is management able to help their employees to actually rethink ways of working in this new scenario? How much work can be done in a day? And is it just screen time? How do you measure results? These are some of the things that will be focused on in the course of this webinar. And we are particularly privileged to have Professor Dave Ulrich with us, who has helped shape modern human resources management in very meaningful ways. In fact, he's often referred to as the father of modern HR. And he will be delivering the keynote. And after he delivers the keynote in a moment, we shall be happy to introduce to you the panelists who will then take this matter on and deal with it with two excellent moderators, who too I shall introduce in a little while. But first, here now is one you've been waiting for, Dave Ulrich.
Good morning, Pop. Great to have you back again. It's a long time since I've seen you and spoken to you. Tell us what has happened since 2016.
Nothing whatsoever. There has been no changes in the world. There's been no changes in my life. That's a joke, of course. Much has changed. Until January of 2020, the world was moving along, and then in January, the corona crisis hit, and our entire world went through dramatic change.
Okay. Let me get to the Q&A that we have planned. My first question to you is, the global pandemic has heightened HR's relevance to business. In this context, what should HR be doing to help people and organizations to deliver increased value as they emerge from this crisis? And what are the new HR practices that will emerge from this crisis?
Dinesh, that's a great question, and it probably requires an entire book on your new bookshelf to answer. Look at all those books you have on that bookshelf. I'm so impressed. Let me try to answer with three very simple insights. And I'm going to start with something in French, and it's going to show that I don't speak French well. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. So even though things change with the pandemic, some of the things are the same. Number one, we have to create value from the outside in. The goal of HR is not to do HR, it's to create value for our employees, for our organizations, for our customers, for our investors, and for our communities. So number one, the issue is to continue to create value, both inside and outside the firm. Number two, through three things. We create value through great people. My fingers represent people. We also create value through a great organization. People come together to create a great system. And we create value through great leadership. So number one, we have to create value outside through people, organization, and leadership. And number three, HR has to continue to reinvent itself. Through digital HR, through technology, through analytics, we have to continue to reinvent what we do. So, creating value through outside in, through talent, organization, and leadership, through HR reinvention.
Thank you. My next question to you is, what has been the impact of the coronavirus on HR skills and competencies? And what new skills will HR professionals need to develop post-COVID?
We have studied HR competencies for 30 years, 7 rounds of research. We're now starting the 8th round, and we hope people will join us for a free 360 at rbl.net. We're looking at 5 things that we think will have an impact. One is information asymmetry. Learning how to source information in this new world about working virtually, about talent, about people. Number 2 is providing a separation from signal and noise. In this world, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of activity, a lot of emails, a lot of ideas, a lot of books. Look at your bookshelf. You're filled with great noise. How do we distinguish signal? What are the key signals that we have to pay attention to? around emotional well-being, for example. Number one, information asymmetry. Number two, separating noise from signal. Number three, beginning to build integrated solutions. It's not staffing, training, compensation. It's integrating those into a solution set. Number four is social responsibility, citizenship. HR needs to be much more connected to the citizenship and stewardship of our country in Sri Lanka or any other country. And number five is guidance. We in HR should have data that not just describes what happens, but prescribes what should happen. And so it's not enough to just say, here's our culture. We should be able to say, here's the right culture given the circumstance. Those are the five skills we're studying: information asymmetry, separating noise from signal, managing social citizenship, social responsibility, integrated solutions, and then guidance for what we should do.
Okay. What has technology really done to employee engagement during this crisis?
Technology is so interesting. It's good news and bad news. We have seen four phases of digital affecting HR. The first phase of digital HR is efficiency. And so technology allows us to be more efficient, to do learning or staffing or compensation efficiently, to some form of a platform. The second phase is innovation. We have found, Josh Burson, who's the expert in this area, said there are 2,700 new digital HR apps in the last year. There are so many coming. Some of them are good. Some of them are silly. One came to my attention, and Dinesh, you'll get a kick out of this, I think. It said, we can do facial recognition. We'll take a picture of your face, and we will tell you what kind of leader you are. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. My chins, my eyes, my hair, that has nothing to do with leadership. But so efficiency, innovation. The next phase of technology that's coming is information, guidance. How do we use digital to not just let us know what we do? It's no longer enough to do a best practice. We have to do a practice that creates an impact. And then the fourth phase is experience or connection. That's where I think HR needs to go in this pandemic world. For example, I haven't connected with you, Dinesh. It is so nice to see you again. It just to see your face and your smile and your books. And welcome to my office. This is my office. I get to connect with you in a different way.
Oh, wow.
We live in, this is actually our condominium, and we have books, not as many as you do. Some of my books that haven't sold, we have them on our shelf.
Yeah, I have some of your books here as well.
I know. But it's so fun to connect and to have an experience. And I think technology should enable us, one, efficiency, to be more efficient, no question. Two, to innovate, although facial recognition may not be the solution. Three, to have information. And four, to have a better experience. And that's where I think we're headed with technology.
Okay. Moving on, Dave, what would HR look like in the new economy once we get hold of a vaccine?
You know, I'm not exactly sure, because one of the things, and I know you're not going to like this, when people tell me they know the new normal, and they say, Dave, I know the new normal, my advice is turn around and run the other way. I don't know what the new normal is. I think we live in a world of uncertainty. And I think our job in HR is to harness that uncertainty. And here's the message I hope HR people in Sri Lanka take. Don't be threatened by the uncertainty. Discover opportunity. Out of ambiguity, out of uncertainty, out of a crisis can emerge a whole new way to behave. Again, Number one, we're going to have to create value for all stakeholders. Number two, we're going to have to manage our people, organization, and leadership. Number three, we're going to have to reinvent HR. We've got the skills, the department. We're building the tools to do it. I'll invite those who listen to go to rbl.ai. rbl.ai. We're building a guidance system that will give us the data to make decisions that will drive results. I think that's the hope for HR.
Okay.
I met a chairman of a big bank, and the chairman of the big bank said, my job is to deliver success to my companies through my people. My answer to that great chairman is to say, we in HR can now tell you where should you invest to make that happen, in talent, in organization, and in leadership. And so to a chairman of a great bank, we share your agenda to get employee productivity and well-being, strategic execution, customer results, investor results, community service. We'll give you guidance, rbl.ai, on how to do that. Dinesh, I adore working with you. You are so creative and so energetic. What a privilege to be with my friends from Sri Lanka again.
Thank you. This two quick questions before we wrap this up. What will the new world of work look like post-COVID?
I think we're going to see an ecosystem of work. I think we used to worry about where we work. Work is a place. I get up in the morning, I go to work, I'm at work, and I go home from work. I think that's gone. But I'm still at work. It could be in my condominium. It could be in your office. It could be in a car. It could be in a coffee shop. It could be in a hotel. No matter where we work, we have to be connected through our shared values. And the boundaries of work are not physical. They're not a place. The boundaries of work are the values we share that create value for our customer.
Okay. And what type of skills will disappear in the next 2 to 3 years?
What kind of skills will disappear? I don't think they disappear. I think they build on each other. And so I think the skill of connection is going to change. I don't think it's just going to be connection face to face. I think it's going to be connection virtually. How do you and I connect, even though we're 12 hours apart, your nighttime, my morning, even though we're in different places, but I can still begin to feel that connection. And so I hope the reskilling is building on the past, that we set goals, but we set goals virtually. We communicate virtually, and we build on the skills that we've learned in the past.
Okay. And what are the 3 things that HR can do to deliver value to the CEO in this crisis?
Take care of your people. Help them feel emotionally cared for. I like the emotion, empathy, feeling the needs of our people and caring for them. Create a great organization. And build great leadership. Talent, organization, and leadership, all of which serve customers. Here's an example. Somebody said that I was quoted as this: our people are our most important asset. By the way, everybody has said that, not me alone. And I think it's wrong. Our customers' most important asset. Let me say that again. Our people are our customers. Do our people do what customers need? Our culture is our core values. No, our culture is our identity in the marketplace. Connected. Our leaders have competencies. Not enough. Our leaders have the competencies that create value for our customers. So everything we do in HR, talent, organization, leadership, creates value in the marketplace.
Okay. My final question to you is, you talked a lot about the organization guidance system. Tell us a little bit more about it, and how can Sri Lankans plug into that?
Thank you for asking. Practice, hiring, training, building agility. I think that's the wrong place to start. The guidance system says start with those 5 results. Are your employees productive? Do they experience well-being? Are you implementing your strategy, digital or other strategy? Are you serving your customers? Are you creating success financially with investors? And are you making sure the community sees you as good? By the way, those are the outcomes. We've discovered through our decades of research, there's 36 initiatives that HR can practice to make those happen in talent, leadership, organization, and HR. So you got 5 outcomes and 36 initiatives. That's 180 cells. 5 times 36. Here's the question. Which 4 or 5 of those 180 cells should I invest in? What we're finding is companies spend about 1% of their revenue on those 180 cells. Am I spending it well? The guidance system is really simple, rbl.ai. It gives you a 10 to 15 minute assessment on talent, leadership, organization, and HR that will guide you where should I focus to give you those 5 outcomes. And the findings are amazing. I'll give one quick example. A company said, I want to generate employee, customer, strategy, business outcomes. Would you refresh our leadership training program? We've been training our leaders. We looked at the guidance system. Here's what we discovered. The leadership training program you offer does not impact those outcomes as much as building a key business case for leadership. So we went back to our clients and said, we can refresh your leadership training program, but if you want those outcomes, you need to do a better job at building the business case for leadership, not refreshing your program. It's not what case study you use or what tool you teach. It's, do people understand the importance of leadership in successful business? Let's help you build that out. Let's help you build that as an initiative, and that will deliver the outcomes better.
Yeah.
That's it. Guidance. I'll give you, by the way, I get carried away. I'm so excited about this. In talent, whoa, it's all about who we hire. It's how we train. It's how we pay. No. When we looked at the 9 initiatives in talent, the one that had the most impact on improving and tracking employee engagement. So compensation matters, performance management, training matters, but the thing that delivers the outcomes the most is improving and tracking employee engagement and giving employees a great experience. That's kind of cool.
Okay.
I now know where to invest.
Yeah.
Okay, I carried away. I get excited. It's been 30 years of work to create this rbl.ai tool, and it's free. Let me say it again. It's free. Go online, take it. It's free. If you want detailed about your company, there's a subscription, but it's free. Couldn't get any better than that.
Okay. And Dave, what is your final message to CEOs of Sri Lanka?
You know, I'm going to give the same message to CEOs that I would to all HR and other professionals. I love to ask people, what's the best year of your life? And somebody says, when I was 15 and playing football, when I was in college, when I was married, when I had children. Somebody told me once, when I was not married, which is kind of funny. When we achieved a great success. Here's my answer to CEOs in Sri Lanka and to others. The best year of your life is the next 12 months. The next 12 months. The best is yet ahead. Sri Lanka has a history of resilience, of success, of continually rebounding and coming back. My friends as CEOs, my friends in business, my friends in HR, the best is yet ahead. The next 12 months will be the best ever. Keep that in mind. That's my agenda.
Thank you. Thank you. It was fabulous talking to you once again. And stay safe. And please be connected with us.
Likewise. Thank you, Dinesh. What a privilege. Join me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Dave Ulrich, our keynote speaker, addressing us from Utah in the United States of America, which brings us now to our present panel. We have Mr. Nikhil Advani, who is the CEO of AIA Sri Lanka, one of the largest insurance companies in the world with a 100-year record of work. And he will be sharing his perspective. And joining him on the panel will be Dr. Ramon Segismundo, who is the president of People Management Association of the Philippines. And he served formerly as the global vice president for HR with GlaxoSmithKline, as well as Wyeth Pharmaceuticals. Also included in the panel is Gaurav Lahiri, who is the human capital leader with Deloitte India, and Sunil Sethi, who's the executive chairman, Dixie Textiles Private Limited, and Gokuldas Intimate Wear. And he also has formerly served as CEO of Frontera in India. Then we have Dr. Chinta Disanayake, who is the founder and director of Oxford Psychometrics Limited. And then to our moderators, we have two. We have Kshanika Ratnayaka, who is the CEO at Great Place to Work Institute of Sri Lanka, and also the very well-known Mr. Dinesh Virakodi, who serves as the incumbent president of, or should I say chairman of ICC Sri Lanka and the de facto organizer of this event. So the joint moderators they are, and I'll hand over proceedings to Dinesh. There we are.
Thank you, Arun. Good evening to everyone. That conversation we did with Dave Ulrich, we had to do in the night because Dave just couldn't find time to join this program today, this evening. So I hope everybody got value out of that. Right. Mon, can I start with you, Mon? Can you hear us?
Yes, you can start with me, Dinesh. You can start with me, Dinesh. Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me, Dinesh?
Yeah, great. Yeah. So, Mon, thank you very much for joining. It's a long time since I have spoken to you and seen you. Tell us a little bit about how Philippines is doing with the pandemic.
Okay. At this point, we're still in a state of what we call as general community quarantine, which means that there's still strict rules on protocol with respect to COVID-19, but it's been a long lockdown, probably one of the longest lockdowns. So the number of infections is still on the high side, second in Southeast Asia after Indonesia. So Indonesia and the Philippines are two of the hotspots.
Okay. Now, Mon, I know you have seen the world. You have traveled to so many factories and countries, especially when you were looking after HR for GSK. They have talked a lot about the uncertainty and the impact it is having on people and stuff like that. So my question to you is, what role can HR play serving others in this particular environment and situation?
Okay. Well, the role that HR plays right now, it's about rebuilding better organizations. I see this crisis as an opportunity to rebuild organizations better than before. And the question is how, right? And as far as I'm concerned, there's three things that organizations need to do. Number one is to be what I would call as to be hyper agile. Of course, a lot of us have heard about agility, but I'm talking about being hyper agile. Second, it's about having an enlightened leadership. And then thirdly, it's about really radically reinventing HR. I think Mr. Arun mentioned the three mega shifts of our time, which is social inequality, economic nationalism, and technological revolution. But with hyper agility, enlightened leadership, and radical HR reinvention, HR could help push this in our respective organizations, working with the CEOs, Dinesh.
Okay. What kind of new skills do you think HR will have to build and develop if they are to play that role?
Yes, when you reinvent HR at this time, we really have to champion health, safety, and wellness. Because this is not only an economic crisis, but clearly this started as a health crisis, right? So I think HR has to really pay attention to the medical, the health, the safety, and wellness needs of the employees.
Second, building and developing resilience. Resilience being the ability to bounce back. Mr. Arun talked about as early as the 70s, they were already talking about mental health, right? So I think we have to manage not only the physical health, but also the mental health of our employees. And thirdly, and it's about advocating remote working. Even before the pandemic, a lot of the companies are already working from home. Well, not a lot, but maybe some companies. But now, I think there's this new model called the work from anywhere. Yeah. Work from anywhere. So it is where your laptop and smartphone is. As long as you have those two devices, you could work in Starbucks, you could work anywhere, in a beach, maybe in Bentota, you could work in Kandy. Doesn't matter, right? Because you already have the technology to be effective. So those are the three things, Dinesh, from my standpoint.
Okay. So, Mon, you said the new philosophy of working from anywhere. Tell us, how do you put the performance management structures in place?
Okay. Right now, I think what's important is the metrics, right? This is something that HR has been preaching before, right? That we be more output-driven instead of being activity-driven, right? And I think all the more with working from anywhere, I think it's important that we have clear KPIs, we have clear metrics, but it doesn't stop there. Even if you're working from home, you're working from anywhere, I think the boss has to continue to engage the employees through regular check-ins. They also have to enable the employee with the tools. And thirdly, you have to continue to energize the employee. So the 3 E's, right? Energize, engage, enable. When I say energize, you could actually have virtual parties using Zoom. You could have, virtual quiz contests, right? So the 3 E's are important.
Yeah. Thank you, Mon. Before I move to Nick, one final question to you, Mon. I know you have very strong views about compensation and benefits, right? What has the pandemic done to to compensation and benefits?
Well, in terms of compensation and benefits, I think it's a balancing act, right? We have to get value out of every rupee that we spend on our employees. But at the same time, I think what the pandemic has taught us is to be more compassionate and to be more kind, right, towards our employees. So I think you have to look for that sweet spot where you're deriving a lot of value from your employees, but at the same time, showing that this is a new era where humility, gentleness, kindness, compassion, empathy becomes important, because there is more to our jobs, there's more to our organizations, there's life, and I think we have just to be grateful that all of us here are surviving despite COVID-19, and we intend to thrive in the very near future.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dinesh.
Another quick one before I move on. Talk a little bit about pay cuts and job sharing.
Sorry, what cuts?
Pay cuts and job sharing in this pandemic.
Okay. This is very industry specific, right? And company specific. I think what's important is to really know, the current reality of your company and your industry, and study what the future is going to be in 2021 and post-COVID. And only then, would you be able to decide whether you're even going to do pay cuts or whether you're going to do job losses or job sharing. Because actually some businesses are thriving, like food delivery, like technology companies are thriving. Real estate continues to be prospering to a certain extent. So, pay cuts and job sharing should be a last recourse. But having said that, if you know that your company is going to suffer and would bear the brunt of COVID-19, then you just have to take the bitter pill and swallow it. Do all those things, job cuts, pay cuts, job sharing. And I think our employees would understand. And besides, it's an employer's market. So I think you should really have an analysis of where your company, your industry is and what the future is going to be. Thank you,
Okay.
Dinesh. That's my response.
Okay, I have one more. Sorry, one more before I move to Nick. What can HR do to help us? Because I'm moving on to a CEO next, so I think this might be a good, platform for that. Tell me, what can HR do to help the CEO to survive in this crisis? CEO to survive.
Okay, I think. Well, to me, the company is equal to the CEO, right? So I think to survive, I think it's important that the CEO takes a professional and objective view of things. And that is where HR could come in and really help see the situation from a really third-party perspective. And whether you take a bitter pill or whether you help expand the organization. I think the HR is the honest broker. In addition to that, I think HR should tell the CEO that this is an opportunity to accelerate digital transformation and also upgrade the people, right? Because, we're in a bit of a timeout right now, right? And you could do all the things that you just couldn't find the time previously to do, right? So I see the HR to be someone who would effectively advise the CEO as a business partner. But at the same time, we have to help the CEO become more enlightened, right? Not only looking at shareholders, but also stakeholders. And then really working on the environment, social, and governance agenda. Because the new world is going to be different, right? The new world is not going to be only about delivering results, but really looking at all stakeholders and looking at societies, looking at communities, looking at the nation, right? And the global family. So it's both hard and soft. So I think that's the job of HR.
Dinesh, can't hear you.
Yeah. So it's both becoming an effective business partner and at the same time advising the CEO to become an enlightened leader. Dinesh. Dinesh? Can Dinesh hear me? I'm done, Dinesh. Nick can hear me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, but
Nick,
I don't think we can hear Dinesh. Dinesh can't hear you.
Dinesh, we can't hear you. Yeah. Yeah. Ruwan, I think Dinesh cannot hear me. No audio coming from Dinesh, right? Yeah.
Maybe Shanika can step in.
Shanika?
Hi. Yes, I can step in indeed. Can you all hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
now we can.
Okay. There you go,
okay.
Dinesh. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for joining.
Oops.
He's gone.
Looks like we lost the name.
Shanika, I think it's time for you to really come in.
Okay.
Take charge, Shanika.
Yes, certainly I can step in until Dinesh, he's changing locations. Dinesh.
Hi, Nick. I came to the control center. Control. Make sure that everybody hears me. Right. So Nick, Dave talked about the new normal, and he said when the word new normal is mentioned, he said you need to run. Right. So in that context, what are your expectations of HR?
Yeah, I think let me just actually set a little bit more context to what Dave said, and what to me is the world of the new normal. Actually, the world was changing very rapidly earlier, and COVID has only accelerated that change for us. And so what's happened is we have reached a tipping point and things have changed very rapidly. So first and foremost, we needed to react to COVID, and I think we all have done a great job of doing that. I'm not going to beat that story again, because we've done a great job. We've moved on. We're all working from home. We're operating remotely and having these conferences remotely. The one thing that's coming through very clear to me is that the world has become more digitized, whether it is agriculture, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is insurance. Data is becoming the new oil, and we need to make sure that we keep up with that. So for me, one big change that's happened in the new economy or the new world, so to speak, is that we have become digital, and we have become much more so at a very, very rapid pace, Dinesh. So if you still think about that, we are behind times because the world has changed. We have changed the way we are working, but HR is yet to catch up, in my view. I'll give you an example. We are still operating in a world where we build or buy talent. Either we bring in people with a lot of experience to support us and build talent, or we bring in fresh starters and then we grow them. Unilever and others do a great job of that. Now, that model and that thinking has to change. Really, the new combination is an ecosystem of build, buy, borrow, or bought, really. And I think that's where HR needs to come in. How do we synthesize these 3 or 4 elements together so that our strategy of bringing people and machines together, bringing people and humans and robots together, and being more effective as an organization really takes us to the next level. So that's one key area for us. And to do that, we need to really rethink our talent pool. We really need to rethink how we're going to do business in the new world. And there's many things that we need to change. So, for example, how do we reimagine the workplace with digital? I think Dr. Sigismundo was also talking about that. How do we reimagine the world with digital? How do we work remotely? What would be the performance parameters? How do we and I guess technology partner? Agility, this is really key. We have been very agile to change towards COVID, but how do we actually keep that agility going? How do we build that into our culture? I think these are some things that we are working, and how do we actually create this whole partnership ecosystem with non-traditional talent, such as the gig economy, specialized workers, and people that we can really work with remotely. So reinventing our workplace is absolutely key if we really want to build and grow in this new economy and new world we live in.
Yeah, Nick, both Mon as well as Dave talked about building resilience. Tell us a little bit about how AIA is doing this.
Yeah, we've had some great stories, great lessons from COVID, Dinesh, and what we're seeing right now is actually a very resilient organization. I'm really proud to be part of AIA. When COVID the first wave hit us in Sri Lanka, we within 24 hours, we converted to an organization that worked from home. We had some hiccups, we had some problems, but we didn't skip a beat. The organization continued to make sure that our customers were well served. And we kept going at a very rapid pace. Actually, what it did for us was became a catalyst to actually do more, do things faster, do things in 3 months that we would have taken ordinarily 2 years to do. And I think that comes down to people, their thinking, their motivation to make sure their company survives. So great ownership was passed on during this whole crisis to our staff and people. How did we do that is really key. So first and foremost is I think Raymond was also talking about staying engaged and connected. I think Dr. Ulrich was also talking about the same thing. We were engaging, we were over investing in engagement with our staff. We were doing events, we were keeping in touch with them. We were making sure that they felt connected to themselves and to the organization. The community that we have at work, we continue to build on that online. So that was first and foremost. We were doing things like sing-alongs, we were doing CrossFit, fitness sessions, digital Aurudu, and most recently, even yesterday or day before yesterday, a Halloween celebration. So we've really mastered this art of working and connecting with each other from home. So engagement is key. Being flexible and understanding that people's lives at home is different from when it is at work is really important. So we have to be flexible when we're working from home. We have to allow people breaks. We have to allow them to do the things that they need to do, cook a meal, get a coffee, deal with their kids' homework, etc. So it's a new way of thinking, new way of working. And we had to retrain our managers in how do they actually apply that work from home, mechanism. More importantly, we've never done that before. So how do we actually keep people accountable? So we've learned a lot of new things. We invested a lot of things. I think the last and most important thing is about managing the physical and mental well-being, Dinesh. In these times, it's really, really, important. So we invested a lot in allowing people to work, but also teach them how they can stay physically fit, even though they're locked up at home. And most importantly, we spent a lot of time talking about mental well-being. We did, stress reduction sessions. We talked about mindfulness sessions. We taught people how to meditate. And I'm just part of a fantastic program at AIA Group, and it hasn't been rolled out in Sri Lanka yet. They have given me a device that I, plugged onto my chest for the last 7 days and sent it back to them. And they actually monitor how much stress I'm dealing with. And from that stress, they're actually coaching me on how I should be thinking about reducing the stress. What are the techniques that I can apply? So these new things are coming, and technology is actually leading the way for those.
Has the pandemic pushed it up, or pushed up the needle, or?
It's all red, Dinesh. It's all red right now. And there are very small breaks of green in the middle, but they're very small and few and far between. But I think it's the nature of the times, and we're holding up and doing well. You talked about just before I think Dr. Raymond was also talking about, being resilient. I think being resilient for me has been great because we have bounced back. You were talking about reduction in pay, reductions and job layoffs. Actually, AI is hiring. And we have grown our agency workforce by about 1,400 agents since the time that the last pandemic struck. So we see it as an opportunity. We see it a time for us to serve the community by giving people another source of income. And we have grown our business rapidly during this time. Of course, insurance is top of mind when people are sick or worried about sickness or mortality. So we're doing great in that regard.
I know AIA is a company that invests a lot of money in training and development. And COVID has had a huge impact on the way you deliver training and development. Talk to us a little bit about how you are dealing with this challenge now.
No, Dinesh, this is a really good question, a really important one, because training and development is so key to the culture as well as the growth of our people. And so we've had to innovate and do it very fast and move on. We were already doing a little bit around the whole digital training, but the little bit has actually become massive. So our agency force, for example, more than 80% of our training is now digital. In many cases, even 100% is digital now. And that's number one for our distribution and our salespeople. But when we look at our own staff, we are continuing the journey of growth for them. We are continuing to invest in their training. We're doing it through an outstanding way of having changed our system completely. So we've created an HR, world-class HR experience through an app called Workday. And we use Workday to not only deliver performance, but also talk about how they can use that for training. Built into Workday are certain classes, courses, things that we want to use and educate people. And each individual has his or her own journey of how they can take on classes. Tushari, our director of HR, and the HR team have actually done a fantastic job, and they even have an hour every week. We never used to have this before, but now we have a learning hour every week, learning from people like in McKinsey, people like Harvard University. We've downloaded and received courses and subscribed to things like LinkedIn Learning that allow us and enable us to do that. So in some senses, COVID is not a blessing, but we've had a few silver linings. So we're really leveraging technology to do that. But Dinesh, it's not only about training. It's actually about making our employees' lives easier. So the things that HR used to do, payroll notifications, leave applications, all that stuff has just been automated through Workday, and people can just self-help themselves. So it's been a fantastic journey, and these last 3-4 months has been fantastic for us from delivering that.
One final question before I move on to Lahir. Dave actually made a very interesting point. He said the pandemic is the best opportunity to turn a view about of companies becoming an employer of choice to an employee of choice. What are your thoughts as a CEO?
I absolutely couldn't agree more. I think this is the time when companies that are demonstrating their flexibility, the changing of their HR policies, the way we operate, and this is the time when people will choose us. And we are seeing that. I think we are seeing not only people coming to us, but we're also seeing better employee retention as we have transitioned over the last few months. Actually, that journey began for us a little while ago. Let me actually tell you a little bit about how we are transforming the organization, if I may, Dinesh. Things that Tushari and I, our HR director, and I discuss quite regularly is how do we deal with our people? How do we deal with COVID first? How do we take care of our people? So this is really top and forefront for us at this point. But within that, now we started this conversation about how do we shift and build a culture that is actually ready for the future. And that's really important, because if we want to build a resilient organization, or if we want to build an organization that attracts talent, we need to start thinking about that. And actually, we started the thinking a while ago. But for us, it's about focusing on experience so that it means something to the employee, not just a routine job. So purpose motivates people in our view, and we need to establish what that purpose is. We've done a good job of that so far. I think the other thing is we're building and developing a culture of agile, a little bit more of risk-taking, less hierarchy, failing first and learning from those experiences. Those are the things that we're actually spending time in talking about between us when we have these HR conversations. And then it's about developing structures that are actually flat and enable faster decision making. So those are the great conversations we're having. And along those lines, identifying skill gaps, technology, analytics, how do we bring in people and attract those kind of people to our business? Because that is, as I said, the future of the new normal. We need to bring those guys in, and we need to make sure we retain them, we love them, and help them grow with us as an employer of choice.
Okay, Nick, just one quick question. How has the insurance industry fared in this pandemic?
Dinesh, I think can't speak for the competition, but in general, it looks like we're doing okay. And even I would argue in some instances bouncing back. If I look at AIA year-on-year growth, we are going ahead much better than last year. If I look at the last 6 months since the first lockdown, we've actually grown our business and done very well. That's coming from the fact, Dinesh, is that customer is thinking about insurance more than she has ever done before. And that's something that's really coming through for the industry, I believe, and for AIA for sure.
Thank you. Lahir, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
Thank you very much for joining. Just tell us a little bit how the situation in India is currently.
Well, in India, of course, it's we are now seeing a downward trend in the number of new cases. It does appear that we have crossed the worst, but it's sort of being cautiously optimistic, because if you think about Europe and other parts of the world, there's been a second wave, so we are bracing ourselves for that. But I think so far it appears that things are getting under control in some of the hotspots.
Yeah. Some of the earlier speakers talked about working from home, remote work, and stuff like that. I mean, since you're in one of the biggest consulting practice, how are you all managing this at the moment? I know you have a lot of overseas work, which have been stopped.
Yeah. No, it's been a mixed bag by and large. I mean, if you look at, the whole, one thing that happened for us is that many of our clients also adopted at equal pace working from home. So, so some of our largest clients at the beginning were quite comfortable with the fact that that we were not on site, because even they were not on site. So to that extent, it was fine to begin with. Gradually, many of our clients have started to say that, look, for some of the more sensitive and transformational projects, we want you to be on the ground, and we are working through it. And that's always a dilemma, because at Deloitte, our people orientation and our values are very strong. So I don't think we would ever tell a person or mandate a person that you better get on a plane and go if the person is not comfortable. So I think it's a delicate dance, and we're seeing on a case by case how to adapt. But by and large, if I look at our consulting practice, we seem to have held pretty well.
Okay. Lot was said about the uncertainty. I mean, since you're in a consulting practice, you're helping companies to improve performance. Tell us how HR can harness this uncertainty to deliver value to companies in this pandemic.
Yeah, so when you think about uncertainty, there are two parts to it, right? One is right here and now, very practical. I'm not sure from a health and safety point of view, some situation evolves. How do I adapt to that? So there is a piece which is extremely short-term, tactical, and HR has to be on top of its game in making sure that the short-term uncertainty is completely tackled. On the other hand, there is also long-term uncertainty. When you think about long-term uncertainty, I echo some of the earlier speakers who spoke about the fact that more than ever, this is the best time to build a really hyper-agile organization. So to that extent, HR has a very strong role to build an organization of the future which can tackle uncertainty. Because uncertainty is here to stay, right? It's going to, on a good day, I think uncertainty will be here forever. So I think to that extent, how can we build an organization which is highly agile, adaptable? That's where HR can play a part.
Talk a little bit about right sizing and smart sizing in this crisis.
No, so I think there are a few dimensions to this. One is again when it comes, I agree. I think around some of the earlier speakers who spoke about it should be the last resort, and it's really a short-term knee-jerk reaction if there isn't a way out, and in a way sometimes right sizing can be more expensive in the short term. So it really has to be very, very well thought through if it makes sense. But I would rather, look at it in the context of the future of work and how, by adopting digital technologies, by using gig workers, how can we redefine work and make work more efficient? And in that case, if right sizing is an outcome, then so be it. But I would frame it more in the context of what's the best way to get work done. Do we actually need everybody in the office? Do we, or can we, do we work from anywhere, or do we work from home? What's the best way? Where should work get done? What's the best way for work to get done? I would frame it like that, because right sizing, I'm not so sure is a long-term solution for us in any event.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about performance management also, given the new norms of the new norms of working and stuff like that?
I think performance management is going to become very, very sharp and tactical. At one point, performance management used to be defined in those very big 30,000 feet terms, whether it's balanced scorecard, what are you doing for finance and customers and process. So it used to be very high level, 30,000 feet. Now, because we're moving to gig workers, we're moving to remote working, it's really, did you get this project done on time? Right? Did you manage to deliver a certain outcome from this task? So performance management is now going to be much more task oriented versus much more broader, 30,000 feet points of view.
Okay. Talk a little bit also about reward and recognition, how the practices are changing in India, especially since January. Yeah.
So reward, obviously when we were hit by COVID, the first reaction was, cash flow based. Right? I mean, do we have the cash to pay people? And to that extent, many people, implemented, salary freeze, pay cuts, et cetera, et cetera. And they started to redefine compensation to say that, look, can we move away from cash-based compensation to more stock-based compensation or long-term wealth creation? So it wasn't so much around the volume of compensation, it was restructuring compensation. So that was one reaction. But within the first couple of quarters, people started to realize, hey, things are not going as bad as we anticipated. And then there was a wave of reinstating pay. Especially in the high-tech sectors, we've seen some of the big companies have actually started to not just reinstate pay, but actually give pay increases. So I think it's been a mixed bag, and at the same time, we are seeing a move from cash-based compensation to more holistic compensation, which is linked to longer-term wealth creation for the company and yourself.
I know you have worked with a lot of big companies in India. What is your prognosis for HR in the new economy? I'm using the word the new economy, post-vaccine.
No, I personally think, and obviously I'm biased because I'm an HR guy, so obviously I'll say what sounds nice. And it is that more than ever, HR is going to be crucial, because at the end of the day, today, it's all about people, right? I mean, having the right people in the right roles, performing effectively is what defines you. So, and then if you think about even the new economy, so much of work is going to get digitized, and tactical work is going to happen through robotics and automation. So really the role of people is about energizing, motivating people, inspiring people. So if you're not able to do that, then I don't think we will have much to run as a company. So that's where HR comes in to help do that. And I think Dr. Raymond said something to that effect, which is, help CEOs become inspirational leaders. So that's the role of HR. That's what they need to do.
There's a quick question for you before I move to Sunil. Somebody wants to know how young professionals in India are managing the crisis, and what are they doing at the moment?
This is a very big question, obviously, and I don't know whether there's one answer. But I think if you categorize young professionals into those who are working and living by themselves in towns and in lockdown, obviously it's a tough place to be in, because you're all by yourself, you're away from your families, and at the same time you're trying to get the work done. So mental health is a very big topic there, and we're trying to do our best to keep people engaged, but at the same time, it's we don't know where this story is headed, frankly speaking. I mean, but then there are people who are have found a safe spot for them. They're back with their families, and we've allowed people to go back to their hometowns and operate from there. So if they're in their safe havens with their loved ones, it's a different space to be in. Then it's about reconnecting and spending time with your family, which you've never been able to do for years. So I think depending on where you are, if you're all by yourself alone, it's tough, and we're trying to do our best to lean in and give them support. But if you're not, then it's the best time for you to reconnect with your families and do things that you ignored for years and years in your rat race to get at the top of your careers.
Thank you. Generally, how are the Indian big companies faring currently in terms of profitability and?
It totally varies based on sectors. But what we can understand as we speak is that the outcomes are looking better than expected. Of course, China bounced back much faster. But for us, the lead indicators is the infrastructure sector and steel, because usually it's a lead indicator for how things are coming, and steel prices are up. So infrastructure is going up. So I think we have reason to believe that from January onwards, we're going to have a bounce back.
Yeah, just another question that I've got here. What are some of the emerging talent practices?
It's hyper customization to the individual. is the root of it, because if you think about technology and the life that we're leading, right? I mean, we're living our our lives out of our phones, right? Or for that matter, our devices, and everything that we are being trained by is about hyper customization, right? We have preferences, we get notes about what to buy, what to how to live our lives. It's highly customized, and we're getting used to that in our personal life. So when we get back to work, we are looking for that, right? We're not looking for a one size fits all HR practice, one size fits all compensation, one size fits all. So we're looking at how can you make something which is bespoke to me as an individual. So that's what I think is the major trend. It's really about individualization.
Right. Thank you. Sunil, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Great to see you again. And Sri Lanka, missing you.
Yeah, I also miss Sri Lanka a lot. Spent 5 years there.
Tell us what you're doing now in India.
So I'm heading two apparel companies by the name of Dixie Textiles Private Limited and Gokul Das Intimate Wear. These two
big change.
Sorry?
Big change or?
Yeah, for me, I've never worked in the apparel sector before, right? I have done personal care, I've done dairy, I've done foods, and now doing innerwear, it's quite a different experience.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about how people practices have changed over the last 6 to 9 months, and in terms of expectations from HR.
So, I think let me give you an example. I think I must say, in hindsight, I was very fortunate to go through a massive change myself. I joined and took over as chairman for both the companies online, not having met even one of my team members once. I ran the business online 3 months, sitting in Sri Lanka, before I could finally get to India. So that was an experience in itself. How do you kind of run a business, let people to get to know you, for you yourself to get to know your people, and all without meeting them face to face, because all my 32 years of life, one has never experienced this. So that was quite a learning, right? And I think coming to your second question in terms of role of HR, for me, whether it is COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID, I think the core role of HR is to create what I call a willing, passionate, motivated, able, I'm talking about current delivery, current abilities, competencies, and a capable organization, which is about future potential, to deliver the organization strategy. I think that's the core role of HR in my mind. I think what got added significantly to the mandate post-COVID was this whole mental and physical resilience, because we've never seen this kind of a change happening and hitting us. And I think a lot of focus in the organization for us has been on building that real resilience, right? Coming to a level where it doesn't bother you now in a negative way. Not that you become careless about it. We are observing all the necessary precautions that we need to take. We, in fact, every 15 days are testing our employees. We are following alternate day rostering. We are educating our people on an ongoing basis. But we've been able to kind of get people to a state of mind saying, okay, this is the new normal. Let's get on with life and let's kind of do some things differently and move on.
Okay, Sunil. Sunil, there's a question here. I will it's an SMS. Somebody wants to know, how can HR in the new economy identify opportunities to grow revenue?
So excellent. I think there are some people who think that HR's job is only about, managing pay on time, attending to all admin issues. I think those in today's day and age are all kind of outsourced. I think HR's two role is to be a business partner, and I think whatever HR does should be measured in terms of either it is adding to your revenue, or it is adding to margin, or more importantly, it is building capabilities which will help you drive the top line and bottom line in a sustainable manner. Yeah, so I'll give you a very small example. So a lot of places I've seen, HR takes a KPI of saying, I will deliver 1,200 hours of training this year, right? We've changed that to say that, okay, if you are delivering 1,200 hours of training, let's say to the sales function, then you will be measured by saying, okay, more than 95% of salespeople would be achieving 100% or more of their targets, right? Linking it straight to that part. And I think the best way HR can do is quantify all their efforts, right? In either saying, okay, this is how it is going to drive growth, or this is how it is going to drive margins, or this is how it is going to build capability in the organization. And I think that's the biggest thing a human resources function can do.
Yeah. Sunil, I know you're very passionate about the HR function. We have had conversations as well. If you take the HR function now, how much of it can be outsourced and how much of it can be co-sourced?
So I think all the admin part, right, should be without any thoughts outsourced. Okay. Now, my belief, business leaders have to invest in brands and people, right? I mean, if I as a leader nurture the brands in the organization and nurture the people in the organization, I think there is no reason why we should not be able to deliver what we have set our sights on. HR's role versus wasting time on admin stuff should be like a brand manager works on consumer insights. HR should be working on people insights. We spend very little time on getting insights on people. So many things are changing. I mean, let's look at the talent, right? And our traditional understanding of the talent versus what the new millennials or the new generation talent wants is very different. It further complicates things for us in the organization, because you have a mix of millennials, you have a mix of people from our age group, and then you have a mix of fresh talent joining you. The three of them see, and their priorities are very, very different, right? You go and tell a 22-year-old guy today that for 20 years from now, your pension will be this much and I've got a fund for you. He says, look, thank you very much. Tell me, what are you going to get today? Right? Medical policy at 56 is very important for me, but not for a 22-year-old. So how do you keep this diverse set of talent engaged in the organization? You will never know till you don't get to understand what's going on in their mind. So I think HR should invest there, right? Then HR should invest in building capability. You have to understand the strategy of the organization, right? Then work on what are the capabilities that your organization needs to deliver that strategy. And especially in these tough times, I think I would like HR to be focused at all times on saying, let's have an organization which is fit for purpose, right? If you don't need a gold-plated kind of talent, make it fit for purpose and then make it future ready.
Yeah,
I think that's where HR should be spending maximum time. Payrolls and other admin stuff can always be outsourced.
Yeah. Sunil, I just want to Mon for a second. Mon, can you hear us? Mon, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Mon, would you like to respond?
I can hear you.
Yeah, Mon, would you like to respond to that in terms of how does HR ensure the organization is future ready?
Yeah, well, I've been listening to Sunil and he's certainly spot on in terms of his remarks. Now, in terms of helping the organization to become future ready, I think one thing that CEOs and HR people should really become is to be futurists. So they have to know, what's around the corner, and they have to know what's down the path, right? Of course, they could come up with many scenarios, right? Alternative scenarios. But once they have an idea of what the future is going to be, then they could build capabilities, they could change capabilities, as what Sunil said, or they could look at, let's say, in the case of COVID-19, we know that the customers are changing, right? The customers would have different behaviors, habits. And the challenge is, how do you make your sales force aligned with these customers? How do you win these new customers? So it's really having a sense of what the future would be, which requires that the HR person be more than an HR, quite broad in his thinking, so that he would be in a position to really help the CEO.
Okay. Mon, given your very wide and vast experience in HR, if you actually look at the HR profession, like I asked Sunil earlier, what should be outsourced, what should be co-sourced, and what should be retained inside the organization?
Yeah. Well, we're looking at, in the new normal, or in what you call as the new economy, the organizations, the way I look at it, would be leaner and more agile, right? Which means that you really have to prioritize your work activities in terms of value. So the lower value added tasks need to be outsourced. So what Sunil says as admin, payroll, they have to be outsourced and really focus on upskilling your core people. So you have to really establish what is the core competency of my organization, or what is the capability that would define my success in the future, and really invest behind that. Yeah. So it's going to be a lean and agile organization, and it's going to be a highly skilled, highly knowledgeable, competent organization, in my view, Dinesh.
Thank you, Mark. Sunil, one final question before I move on to Chinta. We have a lot of young people listening in. For their benefit, can you tell us, if you are recruiting a HR manager now, what are the skills and competencies you look for?
I think one big thing that I look for is...
Has it changed since January?
So I think one thing which has always remained is a fantastic balance between ability to connect with people intellectually and emotionally. Only logic, only intellect, without being able to align the hearts of people doesn't work. So I think that's one big thing. Second, post-COVID especially, would delve into past incidents of the individuals and understand how resilient they have been in their personal life situation. Because yes, HR colleagues are going to be as human as the others, but they will have the additional responsibility of helping the rest of the organization build mental resilience, right? And if they are mentally weak or haven't gone through tough situations or dealt with them strongly, I think then for that role, it'll become difficult. But a good, an individual who he or she can connect both at intellect and emotional level, and number two, have very high resilience, I think to my mind is core. I'm assuming rest of the conceptual understanding of human resources is going to be there.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you, Sunil. Can I move on to Chinta? Can you hear us?
Thank you.
Hi, Dinesh. I can hear you very well.
Thank you, Chinta, for joining us. And you said you are in Belgium today, right?
Yes, today I'm in Belgium. Having
And you spent most of your time in Oxford, or?
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay. How is the situation in England?
Oh, well, I'm actually traveling between two places which have been noted as having the highest incidence of COVID at present. So parts of the UK are under lockdown. And now I believe that Belgium, as of today, is going to be locked down as well to a great extent. Yeah, so we are in the midst of it.
Okay. So, Chinta, my question to you, the crisis has had a huge toll on people, talent, and jobs. And we talked a lot about emotional resilience and getting people ready and stuff like that. What are companies doing for the psychological well-being of their employees? I know you have been doing a lot of work in the last 6 months. Can you share some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Just before that, I think what I'd like to say is that I think COVID has pushed forward a lot of the things that maybe naturally might have happened anyway. So I think that's really important that we keep in mind. And many of the things that some of the other panelists and Dr. Ulrich, actually Professor Ulrich also mentioned, is about this new position that HR has to be taking place. So some of the things that are happening in Europe, for example, is HR having to take a more kind of a humanistic approach in the way that they're dealing with people. And I think that's really important. And I think they're most certainly moving away from a very procedural position to supporting the leaders understand what's really happening with their employees. So they're almost being the emotional component of an indicator, by reaching out to all the different individuals and then convey a message back to the C-level, because I think there was in the past a little bit of a distancing between what HR did and how they communicated that information to C-level members. But now there is greater communication, because at the end of the day, communication is the key part of this, especially when you're working remotely like this, greater engagement.
Okay. In terms of the psychological well-being, what are some of the things that companies are doing?
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to step back a little bit from that question, okay? Because I think even in Sri Lanka, Dinesh, many of the people were already in a position where we are now talking as being the new norm, all right? So one of the things that I did in Sri Lanka, just to make it a Sri Lankan context, and then I can then bring the European one into it, is the fact that I often do little surveys, and I think you have very kindly taken part in some of the things that I send out from here, because I'd like to keep tab of what's really happening there, compared to out here. And there were 5 things that actually came out from Sri Lanka just before COVID, all right? And it's really fascinating because it exemplifies every single thing that every single speaker has spoken about here. And the top thing that came up from employees who are actually thinking that an ideal organization would provide is a respectful organizational culture that encourages growth of people and ideas. That's the first one. Okay. Second one was work-life balance. Then the third one was talent management and development. And then the fourth one was good leadership role models, right? And then the fifth one was professional development that stretches capability. Now, this was before COVID, right? So in a way, when we look at this, you can see that these are the very things that if the organization was doing very well, has now enabled them to survive post-COVID, right? So in a way, when you think about it, the workforce in Sri Lanka, this is from Sri Lanka, this is not from the UK or anywhere. So the workforce were already having an idea of what they want. So now what HR has to do is now you're playing a game of catch up, yeah, trying to make sure that you can deliver some of these things. And to a certain extent, they're playing catch up here too, all right? And they've had to play, press the fast forward button because now, through technology and so on, HR has been tasked with the task of making sure that, people are, the well-being component of it, right? And that hasn't been hard because a lot of people have kind of devoted, I think, I think Lahiri was actually mentioning, is the fact that a lot of people devoted all their lives to their work, okay? So many of them did not have families or so on. So now that has been lost, okay? So the element of support that they were getting from the workplace has been lost. So now HR have to deal with that, making sure that, so there are many well-being. So there are lots of pulse surveys which are going on. I think pulse surveys are various things which are, trying to test what's really happening. So they're using survey technology. So basically actually using technology to make sure that they're keeping in touch. And Zoom is good, ensuring that everybody has, good internet connections and so on, investing in that part of it quite a bit too out here. That's the companies doing it. And also making sure that communication even more often. So 1 monthly meetings are now happening every week. Yeah. So where the leadership is actually communicating what's really happening within the organization with them. So ensuring that people are kept informed, but yet not overburdened with information too, because there's obviously overload as well here. So basically, keeping more regular in touch with people to make sure that they're okay. And having those socials, I think, some of the other speakers mentioned about having more socials as well. Zoom parties are quite regular now, and so on. But another interesting part of Zoom is that, now I can see all of you on my screen, but that's actually quite at an intimate level. Yeah. So we're getting used to the idea that we can get to know each other, yeah, even using technology and not being scared of it. But it also means that we must allow time for that. Yeah? So doing things in small groups, large groups and so on, and making sure that there's a balance going on and keeping kind of well-being, high priority.
Okay, one quick question before I hand over to Shenuka. Tell us, you have done a lot of research, I know, in the last 4 to 5 years and in the last 6 months also. What significant and fundamental change will you see in organization cultures in the future?
Okay, job crafting. Okay.
Pardon?
Job crafting. Okay. So basically, now, because when you think about actually well-being and resilience also is, inside times of uncertainty, like where we are currently, we want to feel that we are in control, okay? And if you're not, then we are feeling quite lost. So actually offering, individuals some element of control over how they do things. And I think that's really important. So job crafting is something that maybe HR can take a bigger role in. And for that, they do need to be emotionally intelligent, not process driven. Yeah. And then making sure that they are, monitoring and developing the talent of individuals. Now, one more thing that I want to actually put in there is that often we have performance development, which happens once a year, right? Now, that's not going to work. Okay, what we need to have is rather than performance development or management at the end of the year, when we're looking back on the year, what we should be having is more regular, informal ways of doing it. And technology, offers us great options for that. So it's really managing between technology and the human element of it, and then making sure that we are crafting things which are more meaningful for the individual.
Okay. Thank you, Chinta. Thank you. Nick, can you hear us?
Yep, can.
Nick, quick question to you before I hand over. Somebody wanted to know, how do you ensure that people actually work from home? They're actually working.
I think it's the results that count, right? So I think some of them, some of the panelists also mentioned,
in fact,
we're more interested in the output.
Well. Mon said you can work on the beach as well.
Yeah, and you can work from anywhere. Actually, from my point of view, I'm indifferent where you work from, as long as we can get the work done. And in that regard, we're actually seeing people work a lot harder from home. They don't have the same 3-hour or 2-hour commutes that Colombo is famous for, and it's actually much more productive time for them. So we're seeing no drop in productivity or activity at all. We're less fussed, actually, Dinesh, about are you working between 8:30 and 5:30? Actually, you can work at midnight for all we care, as long as you get your work done and you're within our meeting windows, etc. So that's absolutely fine.
Thank you, Nick. Over to you, Shanuka.
Thank you, Dinesh. And good evening to everybody. Can I be heard? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, sir. So good evening, as I said, and welcome. It's great to have all of you now on board for about 1.5 hours. We have already touched on several interesting topics at a macro level. And I would like to focus on employee engagement and culture. Here, I mean right culture, as Dave mentioned, as we try to understand the role of HR in a very fluid and ambiguous new normal, as we call it. So my first question, I'd like to direct to Chinta. Chinta, tell me, how important is making diversity, inclusion, and equity a priority and practice in the workplace? And does this help build, for example, a resilient culture?
Okay. Thank you, Shanika, for that really great question. Yeah, and I think as one of the speakers earlier on, mentioned, is that we already have a diverse workforce in the workplace. And having diversity is not just it's only one part of it. That is just, the candies in the jar, the colorful jar that you've got, whether it be, socioeconomic status or whether it be different age levels and different generations. But what's really important here is inclusivity. Okay, so inclusivity is where you make sure voices are actually heard, and having systems in place where people are given the opportunity to contribute. I think it's even more important. So diversity is only one part of it, but making sure that they are included in every conversation, in problem solving, because going into the future, especially in a VUCA world that we're living in, creativity and innovation is where the solutions are going to be found. Yeah? And for that, you need to make sure that people can bring their voices into the workplace.
Correct. That's true. And what I would like to know is around the work that you have been working with teams to develop what you call conflict confidence as well. Right? Can you enlighten us on this subject and how that has been relevant in terms of adding diversity to teams within organizations?
Yeah, okay. Well, many of the organizations that I work with, they are very fearful of having diversity because, where there is different views, there is a potential for conflict. Yeah. So a conflict does not mean a big Barney, okay, not a big war or anything. But then basically what it means is that where somebody disagrees with what you're saying. And it's really important that we teach, because it is a learned process, okay, of being able to discuss an issue or a problem without getting yourself involved in it, because that is the where actual conflict takes place, because people start taking things personally. So one of the things that we do in the workplace is ensuring that creativity and innovation and looking at problems are some things that people can do confidently, yeah, without getting personally involved. And that is a skill, and I think maybe HR could possibly, help in that role.
True, correct. And as we see this second wave of COVID, and the pressure that is continuing to grow on HR in terms of supporting employees and enabling them to adapt and thrive in the new normal, what is your, shall we call it, psychological perspective of that? And what is the approach you think organizations should be taking?
I think that, so COVID is just one of the things that's really happening. I think the world was moving at a very fast pace even before all this happened. It just kind of, tipped things over and caught us off guard to a certain extent, I suppose. But now we're there. Yeah, and I think there are exciting opportunities which are, going further ahead. But well-being and making sure that individuals are taken care of, I think it is really important. But how you ensure that, I think it is incumbent on HR, yeah, to make sure that we do that. And if you can move away from being more process-driven to actually being more human, motivating and encouraging, I think that's probably where some of the solutions lie, and that's what we are helping here.
Thank you, Chinta. I'd like to direct my next question to Sunil. Sunil, having moved from the FMCG industries, hi Sunil, to the apparel industry amidst the crisis, of course. How do you build both trust and empathy and balance, for example, the unique needs of your employees with the pressing needs of business in the current context?
I'll go back to what I said a little while ago. I think it is all about building very deep insights and understanding of your people, right? Okay. I think what especially you need to do whenever there is a crisis, let's take it to our own individual personal situations. Whenever there is a bereavement or something sad happens in your house, in your family, you meet them, talk to them, let them let it out, share. And what happens is we believe that, yes, when you do that, you make people feel lighter and they start getting back to normal, right? Now, why would it be different in workplace? I mean, we're all fundamentally human beings. And if COVID has had different kind of impacts on people, because some have directly been impacted, some have very close members who've been impacted. And I think it's important that in such times, those conversations happen. And what I have experienced that with those conversations itself, a lot of trust starts developing. Because when employees feel that, they are cared for, and you're not only always asking them what have you delivered versus what was expected, I think a lot of trust begins to develop, empathy begins to show, and organization people then give more than 100%. So I think that's important. I mean, never before I have felt the need of being human as much as I felt that one needed to do it post-COVID.
Correct. Appreciate that, because sometimes it is looked at upon as business is more important than the employee factor, and therefore it is quite challenging in the current context. So in your industry particularly, working virtually is challenging, right? So how are you coping with this, and what is the role that HR is playing in facilitating and enabling, factory or manufacturing and trading to continue in this kind of situation?
We have about 4,500 employees between the two organizations that I lead, and a significant amount of workforce, who works in the plant and all. I think one of the things that we took a very conscious call that while a lot of people in the management, including myself, we knew that first thing we need to do when COVID set in was to ensure that we manage our cash flows very well, right? Because if cash flows go wrong, and you can't afford to pay your bills in month one, then it's just a downward, right? And everything then starts. So we, as a leadership team, decided that we will take some salary cuts for a while. In fact, I took a cut even before joining because I knew I was joining and I'd started kind of interacting, but we did not touch the workforce at the plant level and the lower level people in the organization, whom we knew that this monthly salary is very important for their survival. We did that. We ensured that we kept communicating as to what's happening, right, on an ongoing basis, saying this is where we are, this is how we are doing, these are some of the challenges, and this is what is kind of expected from you. I think that also went a long way in kind of building engagement, driving people to deliver what was expected out of them. We were fortunate that just from May onwards, when things started opening up, in India, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns got impacted much later than the metros and tier 1 cities. So the demand started coming back, right? And then the wheels started rolling all over again, We quickly kind of ramped up from what we had decided that we will need to work differently, tone down capacities, etc., to a situation where you had to kind of suddenly ramp up capacity to meet the demand. And I think last 2 months, 3 months, we have now landed into a space where we are growing versus last year.
That's excellent, Sunil, because I can imagine already it was a tough situation, but to immerse yourself and build relations and deal with all of this in April, right in the middle of when it all started, transitioning into a new business is not easy with such a large workforce. So that really takes me to a question to Nikhil. Nikhil, it's great to hear that AIA is hiring. I mean, it's good to hear that any organization is hiring these days. But while hiring in itself is not challenging to do virtually, onboarding and on the other hand, or immersing new staff in organization culture and inspiring them remotely is quite challenging. So tell us what you are doing to cope with that situation at AIA.
Thanks, Shanika. It's a good question. And actually, you're right. It is one of our larger human resource challenges, actually. There's two or three aspects to this, Shanika. One is on the agency side. We are hiring agents quite rapidly, and a lot of them are actually quite digitally savvy and comfortable operating from remotely. As you know, in Sri Lanka, we've been blessed actually between May and just 3 weeks ago, where we could have a bit of a hybrid scenario of where people could do a bit of mix between online as well as offline training. And so we were taking advantage of some of that. That said, the key here is content. The key here is constant engagement. The key here is that we are actually even conducting for these agents joint field work. We're teaching them how to, the two people get on a Zoom call with a customer and teach them how to sell and service those customers. So I think there's a lot of that great collaboration that's going on that didn't used to exist previously. So we've planted those thinking as well as a training into our processes. I think on the employee side, it's a little bit more simpler. We are working from home. We are more comfortable, etc. But your point about the culture is really, really key here. How do we bring people in from the outside? How do we immerse them in our culture? And frankly, I think it just comes down to determination and, more importantly than anything else, engagement. And so we're investing, we're over-investing, over-communicating and investing in engagement at multiple levels, multiple times during the employee's journey with us for the first 3 to 4 months, and monitoring that so that we know that they're doing well. So beyond just hiring, HR is paying particular attention to staff that's come on board, touching base with them frequently, in addition to their managers and their their department director doing so. So there's a lot of things that go on at the same time.
Very interesting, Nikhil. And I think appreciation for HR's role. We are always looking at what HR can do better or how they can contribute. But I think on this front, there's a lot that HR is doing in organizations to deal with these different situations we're talking about, that Sunil and, for example, you all are facing.
I have to say, yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I have to say, I mean, we are really blessed with a very focused and, solid HR team. And I'm not singing their praises without cause, but I think they're doing a great job.
No, their job is not easy. Yes. As Chinta said, we are behind, and we are now doing things that should have been done some time ago or was inevitable. But nevertheless, I think we're coping relatively well. And that really points me in the direction of Lahiri. If I can just direct this question to you, they say there's no time like a slow time to focus on upskilling and talent development, right? Just because there seems to be more time or energy in that space, right? So what are some of the challenges and opportunities for training and development in this new normal?
So I think what we are seeing is that the biggest challenge in upskilling is that the skills that you think you need to build, that keeps changing every 2 to 3 years. So today, if you ask a company, what are the top 10 skills or top 5 skills that you want to develop, everybody is lost in terms of what the list should be. And sometimes they don't know what the list is. And sometimes even if you know the list, it changes very soon. So to that extent, we are seeing that really what matters is, can you build the agility to learn new skills versus having to worry so much about what are the new skills to build. Right. So I think the big focus of talent development now is how can you hire and develop for learning agility, where people, no matter what, you throw them into any deep waters, they're able to figure out a way to come out of it. So I think learning agility is what we are really seeing as the paramount focus for talent development. And
Excellent. So that really, we're really out of time, I think, because we are almost upon 6 o'clock. Dinesh, can I just take one last question with Ramon before you wrap this up?
Please do that. Please do that.
Yeah. Okay. So Ramon, this question really is for you, and it's aligned with upskilling, training, and development, and all of that we need to do as well. In terms of the limitation when we talk of international travel and personal contact. Yes, of course, we can now connect via Zoom. As you can see, multiple people can connect. But how do you really engage and integrate a global workforce? Right? The challenge, I think, is quite different when you're talking about widespread, dispersed global workforces. How do we manage that in this era? You're on mute, I believe, Ramon. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, that's really a good question, Shanika. The question is, how do you engage a global workforce, especially during this time, right? And, as Winston Churchill said, right, don't waste a good crisis. And I think we have an opportunity to start with a blank sheet of paper, right, for our organizations. And I think engagement is about 3 things for me. Number 1 is ensuring that every employee in your organization has a sense of mission, has a sense of purpose beyond the job, beyond the paycheck. I think some of you have mentioned this, right? So sense of purpose, very important. Number 2 is the sense of community. So even if we are now in the Zoom generation, despite the fact that, we are virtual, despite the fact that we are remote, we could still connect, right? We could still connect with our hearts and with our souls. And it's up to us to really ensure that the connectivity, the human connection still happens. And lastly is engaging our employees. We really have to ensure that each of them has the zeal, has the passion, right, to contribute to our mission. So it's those three things, sense of purpose, community, and then the zeal or the passion. And I think the foundation to all of these is something that Mr. Lahiri said, which is, I think he called it learning agility. I'll call it lifelong learning.
Yes.
The ability to unlearn, learn, and relearn on a real-time basis, depending on what's happening in the dynamic environments that we're in. Thank you, Shanika. So that's my take on it.
Excellent, because I think that's really why I wanted to connect the learning question with how do we engage global workforces, because for all of us in this conversation today as well, I think there is continued learning. We are learning every day, and we need to do things differently and adapt and be agile in responding to not just COVID, but all the different crises that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. So on that note, can I hand back to Dinesh, who's going to wrap this up, I believe?
Thank you, Shanika. Thank you very much. Yeah, we have received several questions. So what I have done is, in the interest of time, I put several questions together, and this is the final question for the entire panel. And I like to start with Mon. The question is, what is your advice to HR, employees, and management, A, to survive the crisis, and B, to move forward in the new economy? Mon?
You are mute. You're on mute.
Well, if there's one advice that I would like to give to HR, to the employees, and to management, is to really be agile, to know what's happening outside of your organizations, outside of your societies and countries, and respond in the best manner possible. So I think that's what agility is all about. So that would be my advice, Dinesh.
Thank you, Mon. Nick?
Similar to Mond, I think, really be on top of things, be super engaged. And I think most importantly at this time, Dinesh, it's very important for us as an organization, and not only in HR, but to be very, very humane. People are going through some tough times. Even if we haven't impacted their jobs, it's different. And I think this is our time to show that humanity as companies.
Thank you. Lahir?
I think I would say just be the bridge between people and technology, because at the end of the day, these are the two big forces that are going to take us forward. And I think we should be equally, learn to be ambidextrous in terms of understanding the impact of technology and understanding the impact of people, and be the bridge.
Okay. Chinta?
I think my thing is that future is going to continue to be unknown. Yeah. And I think maybe as HR, maybe what we could do is to encourage people to be engaged, to try out new ideas quickly and fail quickly. All right. And learn from it, because that's pretty much it. Yeah, so don't be scared. Take risks.
Great point. And Sunil, you can have the last word.
Yeah, okay. I think absolutely agree with the points that others have said. Two more things. I think, future is actually here. It's just about us not being able to join the dots and predict what's going to happen. Yes, it's very difficult to predict things like coronavirus, but I think HR can just help in joining those dots and probably throwing it to the organizations. So look, these could be the possible things that could be coming. Second, I think, which to my mind is very important, we as human beings need face-to-face interaction. We need to meet people physically to be able to relate and work. In the new environment, that's not happening. How do you help individuals to bridge that gap and meet that need? Reality is, it is not going to be the same. right? You got to keep distance, you got to keep safe. You won't be able to go till vaccine comes, and I don't know how much time it'll take for that vaccine to actually get deployed to everybody, right? So in the next 2-3 years, how do you help people satisfy the need of personal face-to-face interaction, and learn that look, the other's way to interact also can be make. So I think that's, to my mind, are the 2 more things that add to the list.
Thank you, Sunil. So before I close this session, I think the 2 CEOs need to respond to this question. This question came in about 3-4 times. The question is, who is really responsible for human resources in a company?
Can I go first?
Yeah, Nick, you can go first.
I think all of us, and it's not just the HR department's job. It's my job. It's our executive committee's job. It's actually all of us, and together we make a culture. It's not, you can't isolate human resources to one team or one unit. It's just not possible. And in my business, in the insurance business, it is actually all about people, and so it's us. It's all of us, all the time. Actually, never been different.
Yeah, Sunil?
I think all of us, I would fully agree. And it's not only about, people who are managing people. We have a responsibility for encouraging, motivating peers. We have a responsibility for energizing people below us. We have responsibility for energizing our bosses, right? They're also human beings. They can have their weak moments. And I think if we develop trust all around us, actually managing people, right, is each and every person's job. And HR only helps us through their expertise in the space to do that well. Because somebody also needs to manage us, right? We also have our weak moments and we also have our challenges. And that's where I think HR should come in as business partners and say, hello. I mean, take a, like I say, chill pill and don't react like this, do it this way. So I think we all have to be people managers.
I'm sure
I can just
I'm sure Mon wants to have the last word. So over to you.
Let me edge one in, Dinesh. I think Sunil makes a very important point, that HR actually is our conscience. And as CEOs, it's really important for them to be sitting on our shoulder here and telling us that, that's not right, or, there's better ways of doing what you're doing. And I think that's a really important role that they do play.
Okay. So Mon, can you sum that up?
Yeah, I think just to sum it up, I think we are in a crossroads. I think we are in a time where we have a golden opportunity to create organizations that are awesome as the people that are on it. We talk about agility. We talk about leadership, enlightened leadership, being more humane, emphasizing the H in HR, and really making HR more strategic and value-adding, as what Nick and Sunil highlighted. And we have to really ensure that we contextualize what we do and that we execute flawlessly. So hopefully that is a fair summary of what we've discussed.
Thank you. By the way, Mon, you're not putting out any new books?
I'm sorry?
Aren't you putting out a new book?
That's always been in the works, yeah.
Okay.
I just couldn't find the time right now. Yeah, time flies. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Arun.
Thank you very much. We had a little stress placed upon the H word in HR, the human, and just a little while before that we had Sunil mention the T word, and that was trust. Those are good words to hang in our consciousness as we conclude this session. We would like very much to tell those that have been tuned in or have joined us late that the whole program has been recorded and will be available on Facebook, Facebook postings are on Daily FT, ACCA, AIA, Great Place to Work, and of course, ICC Sri Lanka. So on all of those pages within Facebook, this whole program will be recorded and made available. So just keep that in mind. And we conclude with saying thank you very much to ICC Sri Lanka for arranging this, along with Daily FT, ACCA, and the Association of Human Resources Professionals of Sri Lanka, HRP. Thanks very much, and do take care, everyone. And the scenario changes. That's what we hear.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all, and good night.
Please stay in touch.
Thank you, Dinesh.
Please stay in touch. Please stay in touch. Thank you, Shankar.